Okay, let's get back to our discussion on DHCP reservations. If you watch my top 10 networking terms tutorial, you already know what DHCP is. Most home network routers already have a built-in DHCP server which allows computers on your network to automatically receive IP addresses that will work on your network. The thing about a DHCP assigned IP address is that sometimes it'll change. If the device or computer that has that reservation is turned off for a period of time and another computer comes on the network, the new computer may receive that IP address. Then when the original device comes back onto the network, it will probably receive a different IP address. In most cases, this is perfectly okay. But if you have devices on your network, such as print servers, game consoles, or network storage devices, the settings or software that's used to communicate with those devices probably depends on the IP address assigned to it. If that IP address changes, you could lose communication with that device and you'll have to go back and configure it again. There are actually two ways you can address this. One would be to go to the device and configure it with a static IP address, or you can configure that device for DHCP and then create a DHCP reservation for that device on your router. A DHCP reservation is simply a setting on your router stating that from now on, this IP address is reserved for this device and this device only. And that device is then identified by its MAC address. One of the advantages of a DHCP reservation over a fixed IP address is that any changes we make to the network settings on our router later will automatically be assigned to all our clients and devices, so we won't have to go around individually manually configuring them again. So let's have a look at that. Now on some routers, finding some of these settings is not always as intuitive on others. So you have to use your thinking cap a little bit. Now a DHCP reservation would be under which one of the following categories? Well, a DHCP reservation gives computers on our LAN IP addresses. So let's take a look at LAN setup. So here we have our basic LAN settings. We have the IP address that we gave to our router, subnet mask, and we have checked use router as a DHCP server. We've chosen to use the IP addresses between 101 and 150 as our DHCP scope. In all cases, the IP addresses that we use for our DHCP reservations must fall somewhere within our DHCP scope, meaning all IP addresses that we place down here in the address reservation section must fall between 101 and 150. If we try to use an IP address outside this range, we'll get an error message stating that we need to use an IP address within the DHCP scope. The purpose of this crazy illustration right here is simply this. You have a DHCP scope, and then you have IP addresses before and after that scope, and from within the DHCP scope we take our DHCP reservations. Let's have a look down here. Basically all it is the IP address that we choose to give that device, the name of that device, and the MAC address of that particular device. Typically we get the MAC address from the device's web interface. In this case, I assigned my Xbox 360 an IP address of 136, and I pulled this MAC address off of it and typed it in here and clicked add. Now whenever the Xbox turns on and associates with this router, the router looks for this MAC address, and when it sees it, it automatically configures the Xbox with this IP address. All I had to do was to go into my network settings on the Xbox and choose DHCP. A good example of when a DHCP reservation can be useful is with print servers. If a print server is not set up with a static IP address or a DHCP reservation, it'll usually work fine for a couple of days and then all of a sudden stop working because this IP address has changed. So next we're going to set up a print server and we're going to configure our router with a DHCP reservation for it.